D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We hope you're having a wonderful Thursday, this final day of April.
Yes.
Tomorrow, we are going to be flooded with all of the NSYNC memes. Are you familiar with the NSYNC meme?
No, I'm not.
Oh, God.
It's gonna be May.
It's gonna be May. That was my Justin Timberlake impression. Sorry, everybody.
They had a song that was actually called that, or that was just
It's
a
gonna
verse?
be me.
It's
So
gonna
he
be
says
me.
me. Funny.
Oh, okay.
But Justin Timberlake,
The
in
way he
that,
says
he
it.
says May.
Okay, all right. I see it now.
And then we'll get to next week, and it will be May the 4th be with you.
Why is that so bad? You think
Nerds.
That is just
Oh,
y'all
but
go,
it's not
y'all
nerds.
go
It's
overboard
it
with
was a
it.
stretch.
May the 4th be with Duh. I'm glad it is with me. Y'all go overboard with it, man.
I prefer the NSYNC meme to the Star Wars meme, honestly.
What about May 6th?
What's that?
6 de Mayo.
Am I missing something here?
Well, there's Cinco de Mayo. That was one of my teammates. One of my teammates for the Vanderbilt baseball. It's late in the season, killing time in the dugout. Ronnie McGill, funny, just a funny deadpan humor. It was May the 6th, and he goes, "You know what today is?" Because we had all gone out on Cinco de Mayo. He goes, "Today is 6 de Mayo."
So another day of drinking.
As long as you say it in Spanish.
Yep. There you go.
Right before we came on the air, the Titans officially exercised Peter Skoronski's 5th-year option. It will pay him north of $19 million next season. No surprise there, but it has been a minute since the Tennessee Titans exercised a 5th-year option. So congratulations to
celebratory
Peter
day for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pop a bottle of champagne.
I believe Jeffrey Simmons
That was the last person.
was the last player, Titans player, to have a 5th-year option exercised.
Man.
Well, you go back before him. I think they might be one for the last, I don't know, 1 or 2 for the last 10 first-round picks.
Probably.
Point
Let's look at it.
Those were their days.
All right, hold on.
What's
Cam Ward, too early.
To be determined.
Yeah.
J.C. Latham,
Same.
too early.
Yeah.
Peter Skoronski,
Yeah,
just happened. Traylon Burks,
Nope.
Caleb Farley, that's
Yeah.
me
That's
stifling
0 for 2.
laughter. Isaiah Wilson.
0 for 3.
Oh, yeah.
Did Rashawn Evans have his 5th-year option exercised?
No.
No.
Did
0
Corey
for 4.
Davis?
No.
Nope.
Did Jack Conklin?
Nope.
No.
And that was a mistake.
Those two I thought
Did
were
Marcus?
mistakes. Marcus, yes,
Yes.
I think he did.
Yes.
Yeah, Marcus did.
Did Taylor Lewan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
Famously.
been a minute.
Yeah.
So this is actually noteworthy.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Peter Skoronski.
Celebrate it, Peter.
Then you go back before that. Chance Warmack? Nope.
Nope.
Kendall Wright?
Nope.
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 Jake Locker? Nope.
Nope. God, this
Derek
God.
Morgan?
I think they
I'm
did.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe,
They
yeah.
did.
Maybe.
They did.
Big maybe.
No,
Kenny
no,
Britt? Nope.
Definitely not.
Because D. Morgan was here for what, 8 years? I think 7 years.
Yeah, I think
So
they
he
yeah.
signed. Yeah, either he signed it or they signed him
to a second
contract.
contract. Yeah.
Second contract. Yeah.
So
So it's
that's
Few
since
and far and few
2000.
between, or few and far between.
Since Derek Morgan in 2010, they've had since Jake Locker in 2011, the number of guys who have signed a second contract: Luan, Mariota, or the 5th year or the second contract. Luan, Mariota, Simmons,
Morgan
and
Did you say Morgan?
Skoronski. No, I'm going the year after
Oh,
Morgan.
okay.
Since 2011.
I
So
found a
that's 4
story.
guys since 2011.
That's not a good hit rate. That is really not. If you're talking about if this was
That's just the first round pick.
and a group, this wouldn't be good.
I found a story from our friend John Glennon from May of 2020 with the headline, "The 5th year, Titans ranked near the bottom of the NFL in picking up the option." Okay, remember, this was from 2020. Glennon writes, "When the Titans on Friday declined wide receiver Corey Davis's 5th-year option, it didn't mean he'd been a disaster as a player, just that he hadn't been productive enough to merit $15.7 million in 2021. And it was nothing new for an organization that has picked up the 5th-year option on only 4 of the 8 first-rounders who have come up since 2011. The Titans have exercised the option on Kendall Wright, Taylor Lewan, Marcus Mariota, and Adoree Jackson.
Wow.
And declined it on Jake Locker, Chance Warmack, Jack Conklin, and Corey Davis.
Oh, so we missed some people. Adoree
Jackson.
He was the second pick in the first round. He
was a lower first round pick.
Yeah. He was with the Conklin, right? I did
not realize they picked up his option.
Was he with Corey Davis or Conklin?
I think he was with Davis.
He was part of that.
Corey Davis.
Adoree Jackson was the 18th overall pick in 2017.
I'm saying, was he a part of that?
That was Corey Davis.
Corey Davis. Okay. All right.
That was Corey Davis. So congratulations are in order.
Yes.
It's finally happened. The Titans had a first round pick worthy of having a 5th-year option. So congratulations to Peter Skoronski. Man, just going back through that draft history, that just puts you in a foul mood.
It makes your head hurt, doesn't it?
But Kendall Wright, I didn't realize they did that.
I didn't realize they did the 5th year either.
They probably regretted doing that.
But let's talk about the Titans' most recent first-round pick, Carnell Tate, of course, number 4 overall last Thursday. And I saw this pop up on my social media feed yesterday. Carnell Tate did an interview on the red carpet before the NFL draft with Sports Illustrated. And Sports Illustrated asked him how much he would pay a veteran on his new team for number 17 if that number was taken. And Carnell Tate said, quote, "Low key, I'm giving up the bank. I need that number wherever I go. Somebody gonna get blessed," end quote. Chimdike, where's number 17? So if you were Chimdike, what would you ask for to hand over number 17? Derek, before the show, you told me if you were Chimdike, nothing would make you turn over number 17.
No, because it's not like Chim hasn't, proven himself. This is a Pro Bowler. This is a guy.
An all-pro.
An all-pro. This is a guy that was one of the brightest spots on your team that didn't have much to talk about outside of Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward. So he was that bright spot. If I'm Tate, you ask me that question, I'm like, listen, I'm going in and compete, man. And I want to earn that number. I don't want to pay somebody for it. I want to earn it. When I earn it, then if DK wants to give it to me, then fine. But I got to earn that first. DK earned it, even though I don't think anyone had 17, or if they did, it really didn't matter. But DK earned the right to come back again wearing that number. Why? Because he was a all-pro. You know what that means? That means a hell of a lot, even more than Pro Bowl. Your peers, they thought you were that good. This wasn't a fan thing. Your peers thought you were that good that they named you all-pro. Coach, all of them. I earned that 17. Prove to me that you're worthy of asking me for the 17. And I may just give it to you if you prove it. But I know you can buy it. I know you can pay for it. That's cool. Earn it first. And then come talk to me about the money. Don't worry about the number, young man. Earn a spot on this team, even though you're the number one, you're the first pick in the first round for the Titans, 4th overall. But still, come in with the mentality to earn that number and not pay for it.
So if I hear Derek Mason correctly, he would say, "You can take the number 17 from my cold, dead hands." Willie Donick, can you be bought?
From a principle standpoint, I don't like the whole thing about I'll go in and just get the number that I want.
I can be bought, by the way. I can be bought.
As a rookie that's never set foot on the field, I don't think that's good policy. But everything could be bought, right?
Yeah.
If he's that crazy, is DK that tied to number 17? Some players really don't care.
Yeah. Make your number.
DK may not think it's a big deal, but I don't like the attitude of I have to have my number. Nobody's that important.
Carnell Tate's total contract, by the way, when he signs it, according to Sportico, $51.1 million with a $33.6 million signing bonus. So he's flush with cash. And there are examples across all sports of this. For example, Shohei Ohtani When he arrived in LA, well, he was already in LA. Well, technically he was in Anaheim, but when he went from Anaheim to Los Angeles proper, he gave the wife of Joe Kelly wore 17. Shohei Ohtani gave the wife of Joe Kelly a Porsche.
See, I would have been like, you ain't giving my wife no car. You give me the car?
I think she
but
led.
You ain't giving my wife a car.
She led a social media campaign to convince Ohtani to come to the Dodgers. So,
but still, you ain't buying my wife a car. That's just me.
I'll tell you
you can give it to me.
I'll tell you my favorite story, Willie, from the hockey world. Last year, the Carolina Hurricanes traded for Mikko Rantanen from the Colorado Avalanche. And when Mikko Rantanen, who wears number 96, arrived in Carolina, his teammate Jack Roslovic was wearing number 96. So
96. Like everybody's got a 96.
So Rantanen gifted Roslovic a Rolex that was valued at over $10,000. Well, what happened next, Willie? Mikko Rantanen didn't stay in Carolina for very long.
Right.
He was traded to Dallas. So Roslovic, as soon as that happened, went back to number 96. He gave it up for 14 games and got a $10,000 Rolex out of it.
That's how it be sometimes.
I mean, that's good business right there. That's good business.
That is.
This is me and me only.
Mm-hmm.
I am into the number that I wore. Like I wore a lot of different numbers, but once I have a number on my team, that's my number.
Mm-hmm.
So your number was?
Well, it depends on what team you're talking about, but
well, tell us your numbers.
It's too long of a list. But, like I was 22 in high school for basketball. I asked for 22 for Vanderbilt, but there was another guy that had 22. So I was like, well, I can't have 22. That's life, right? But if like the people that are there before you, those are their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel good about asking for somebody else's number. I want to get my own number and establish my number. Once I got my number, that's my number. Don't come to me and ask for my number.
That's the way I feel, Will.
That's the principle to me.
I don't have a problem with it. If Carnell Tate wants to spend big on number 17 and Jim Dike is willing to give it to him, I've got zero problem.
I would add up the math. Like, okay, how much did I receive from jersey sale royalties that every NFL player gets at the end of the year? I think it's still that way. How much did I get for the royalties of my jersey being sold? Then how much did I get for going to the Pro Bowl? And then how much did I get for doing signings? Add all that up, times it another number, and then you pay that. Because essentially that's what it is. That's because I've made this number. Yeah. And that's just the floor. That's just the floor. That's not the ceiling. So you add those numbers up, times about 2, and then you come at me and we can start negotiating.
Dustin in Hopkinsville on our text line says, I would not turn over number 17. He is playing my same position. We are grown men. If I let him buy me out, I'm a sellout. If I give it to him, I show him he's better than me. No, we need competition in mini camp and practice, all the things. That's my damn number. Back off.
I think, and that's why I don't like putting my teammate in that position where he's got to make that decision. I don't like that.
But I'm going to be fully transparent here, and because I have sort of kind of a bias to this whole number thing, because when I came here, I was 82. I wanted 80. Rona had 80. Rona's a veteran tight end that played here when I first got here. And Rona, he was a good player. He had bust a grape in this league. So me going to him and asking for 80, I would have never done. I'm a 4th round pick, so I've never done that. But they gave me 82. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm 82. Go out there, do whatever I do. I prove myself in this league. But then the next year we got Yancey Thigpen. Well, without even telling me, they gave Yancey 82. So I'm like, all right, it is what it is. I can't fuss about it.
So you didn't even have a say.
Yeah, I didn't even have a say. So I went to 85, and the rest was history. But that's why I'm so sensitive to stuff like that. When an organization can allow someone to come in, and I get it, I was a second-year guy, but allow someone to come in and just take numbers and not even, I'm just a little bit sensitive about that. That's why I say he needs to earn that number. Now, Yancey did earn the right to, but if that's the case, then you should approach me, not just, you and a organization just cahoots say who has number 82? Oh, that a young fella? Get him out of here. So that I'm just a little sensitive, but my thing would be earn it first. Show me that you earn the right to ask me to wear 17.
615-737-1025. Thought that would be a fun topic to start the show. Carnell Tate said before the draft, he's given up the bank for number 17 if a new teammate had number 17. Jim DK has number 17. If you were DK, what would you ask for from Tate to hand over number 17? 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Belmont Director of Athletics Scott Corley will join the program. All signs point to the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments, unfortunately, expanding to 76 teams. What does that mean for mid-major programs such as Belmont? We'll discuss that with Corley coming up next. 615-737-1025. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Norfolk Tides at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina. D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 102.5. The Game, you hear May, not me. But that's
Isn't
tomorrow.
that the Britney Spears beat?
Oh, it's the
This
same
beat-
same
yeah.
same era.
Yeah.
I
it's a
mean,
bit-
boy
yeah.
bands, Britney Spears.
Oh yeah, they were
Bye, bye, bye.
top
Isn't
of the
that-
charts. Back
yeah.
when D. Mace
That's,
was doing
that's
his thing for the
so insane.
Titans.
Exactly.
That was the era.
Yeah.
Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Belmont Director of Athletics, Scott Corley. All signs point to the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments expanding to 76 teams starting next season. Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? Breaking down some NSYNC, I hear.
Oh yeah.
Indeed. So,
All right.
so Scott, how will mid-major programs such as yours be impacted by the tournament expanding to 76 teams? Do you think this will further widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots, so to speak?
Well, I certainly hope not, right? I mean, obviously, from our vantage point, if you do expand and add 8 more teams, the hope is that there are some deserving mid-majors now that will maybe get an opportunity to play in that tournament that wouldn't otherwise. Having said that, I'm not naive enough to know that, a lot of those slots are going to be filled by P4 schools that are able to build a better resume just by the way they can schedule. But, for us, being in the Missouri Valley, which is the 9th best conference in the country, I do think it gives us a better chance of getting 2 teams into the tournament. And that's, obviously a goal for every mid-major conference is the more teams you can get in, obviously the financial return improves. And, I think about 3 years ago, Indiana State out of our conference was a top 30 net. They ended up getting beat in the conference tournament. If there were 76 teams that year, I think they would have easily gotten that large. So that's the hope. But, obviously we also realize the P4s are going to benefit.
Yeah. Now, people would say, well, it's possibly diluting the process of March Madness. But are we looking at it totally wrong because of the advent of NIL and so much transferring going on that teams that may not have been one of those perennial teams now, because they get 1 or 2 guys, now they're that team that can truly compete in the tournament?
Well, there's certainly some to that, Derek. I mean, obviously everybody's roster's turning over a lot. And so, if you can hit the right combination and make a nice, run in that season, anything is possible. Look, I understand some of the consternation of expanding. I really personally don't think it's going to dilute the regular season that much. And I don't see the harm in playing, a couple more games on a Tuesday and a Wednesday night. I mean, the ratings on those games this year, I think, were very good. I think people will still watch. I think you're certainly going to have people being critical of it, and traditionalists that don't like the idea of expanding. But we do have a lot more schools. And look, I mean, the bigger conferences now, they're the ones pushing this. When you've got 18 teams in a conference, they're going to do what they can to get as many teams into the tournament, and people will still watch those teams, I believe.
Now, for conferences like yours, where, if you win the tournament, you get an automatic bid. But if they're opening up the field, shouldn't it be? Because I think now, does it sort of dilute the regular season? Because we've all seen where you have a team that's really good in the regular season and win the regular season title, but then for whatever reason, they don't win their tournament and now they're out, which in fact, they're the better team and should be in.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at us this past year, I mean, we were by far the best team in the Missouri Valley during the regular season, and we go to St. Louis and still know that we had to play perfect. We had to win 3 games just to make sure we were in the tournament. Let's just say hypothetically, we made it to the finals this past year, and we had a lot of good metrics, a lot of net things like that. I think we could have been within shouting distance of getting that at large if there were 76 teams. So now whether that, in your opinion, dilutes the field or not, I would argue it actually enhances the field because you're getting one of the top team that proved it over 20 games in the regular season in our conference.
Scott Corley is with us, athletic director of Belmont. So, Scott, along those lines, when it happens to you, I'm sure you have this thought. But I wonder, is there any amongst the non-Power 4 leagues, any momentum at all to switch the philosophy and just give the regular season champion the automatic bid instead of whoever wins the tournament?
Well, that's a great point, Willie. I have not heard that gaining too much momentum, but to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if that becomes more of a conversation at our conference type levels, because what you see, Willie, most conferences try to do is at least protect the 1 and the 2 seeds going into the tournament with double buys. So they're already trying to do that tournament where the top teams have a better chance of winning. Eliminating the tournament overall, though, it is challenging because you want the student athlete experience to be really good at our level. And part of that is, let's be honest, the conference championship. That's what everybody wants to play in and have a chance to enjoy the environment for us in St. Louis with Arch Madness. So, and there is a financial component to that, Willie. So, but you could definitely make the argument that if conferences like the Missouri Valley, if you want to ensure that the best team gets in the tournament, just have the regular season champ be the team.
Maybe you can help us with the backstory of this, wanting to go to 76. There's the obvious, the financial part of that. That's the lead thing. But I have heard this before. It's got people that can go back, say, 20, 30 years. The number of teams in Division I, and you guys and Lipscomb, there's some examples here locally of teams that weren't Division I back when you and I were playing college basketball, and now there's a lot more. So what's the number now as opposed to what it was at, in 2000 or so?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers. I think we're up to 363 Division I schools now. It had to be close to 300, Willie. So there definitely has been an increased number of schools that are in the Division I. And so, in the backstory, if you remember, there was Condoleezza Rice put a commission together a couple, 3-4 years ago to, look at everything related to basketball and the NCAA. What came out of that is the recommendation that the NCAA tournament field should be 25% of the number of institutions. And so I think if we go to 76, we get closer to that 25% number. I think right now we're more in the 21% number. So that's where a little bit of the momentum, I think, began. And then it just has kind of been bubbling underneath. I think Charlie Baker, the new president, he took a deep dive in it, and he was supportive of expanding. And I think he started, talking more about it and bubbling up the interest among the membership. And, now we are where we are. I think a lot of it had to do, let's be honest, we had to make sure the media partners were on board, and there was some value to the NCAA financially from that. And my understanding is there will be a little bit of that. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I think when all those things you boil them down and they all come together, I think that's where we've gotten to the point where this expansion is likely to happen.
Well, okay, so you answered my next question. This looks like it's inevitable, basically. So now I'm picturing I get my bracket when everything's announced, and I've read through the format of how they're going to do the first couple of days. So, Scott, do you like how they're doing it? Rather than just have a couple extra games on that Tuesday, Wednesday, they're taking, 24 teams before the actual bracket field of 64 starts happening on that Thursday, Friday. Do you like what they've come up with?
Yeah, I don't know if I know enough to really form a strong opinion on that, Willie. That is certainly the concerns I've had when I heard we were moving to 76 is, okay, what do those first Tuesday, Wednesday rounds look like? Obviously there'll be a lot of 15s and 16s from what I've read. And then you've got the 11 and 12s at larges. So I don't know if I have a strong opinion on that. I mean, clearly it's going to be different. I hope they do a really good job promoting those games and and trying to change. It's not the play-in games anymore. Trying to change the vernacular to the opening round. But look, it's going to be different, and it's going to take time for people to adjust to it. And I think it'll take time to really say, is that the right formula for the tournament? But I think you got to start somewhere, and this is what is being discussed.
Do you think there will be, once they get this done, that they're going to have 76, that there'll be any further discussion about maybe where we started of balancing those extra bids between power fours and non-power fours? Because there was a study done just looking at last year's field of the first 4 out by the committee and then the next 4 out who theoretically all would be in. And it's not an impressive list at all. It's a lot of resumes that really don't look like NCAA tournament resumes. It would look much better a Belmont at 26-6 or whatever you guys were. So I feel like that should be part of this.
I hope so. I think the committee is going to have, it's always a hard job in the committee, but I do think the committee members will hopefully take into account a little bit more of the mid-majors who have, that win a lot of games. I mean, I get frustrated when I see all these arguments for schools that have played 18 quad 1 and quad 2 games, but they're 4 and 14 in them.
Right.
And yet they talk about they're deserving to play in the tournament. And that does frustrate me when I hear that stuff. I mean, it's one thing to play the games, but you got to win the games. And the way the P4 can schedule, they have such an advantage in scheduling towards us that it makes it tough. And so I do think the committee will feel a little bit of, I don't know, pressure maybe is too strong, but to really, give an honest assessment to those top level mid-majors that have had a good year.
Belmont Director of Athletics, Scott Corley, has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Scott, thank you so much for your time. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
615-737-1025. Let me just put it out there on the record. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. 76 teams. No, thank you. As I said the other day,
the brackets will be messy.
I know.
Very.
But as I said the other day,
do we wait after the first 2 days to even do a bracket now?
That is a question for next March. But it is a good question.
I mean, just imagine a bracket with the 2 extra things. Like, how would it even look? Like a bracket of 64 looks nice and clean. It looks good. We can deal with, I guess, the first 4. It's still not quite right because sometimes the team that wins that 11 battle of 11 seeds or battle of 12 seeds goes a long way in the tournament.
Well, remember when the 2 of you were younger, which was a long time ago?
Really long.
Oh, wow.
And you were going on a road trip and you had to fold out the map and it was like this big.
Yes.
Because there was no Google Maps. That's what the bracket's
right.
going to
It's
look
gonna,
like.
Yeah, you're going to have to unfold it from your pants pocket.
Exactly.
Comically
12 times.
large map.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Remember when you used to have to print out directions?
That was the worst.
You just have to print out the bracket.
Yeah, have to do it all. But I think either way we cut it, we've complained about the expansion of the football tournament. We've complained about the expansion of just about everything when it comes to sport. But then once a few years go down, once a few years is sort of under the belt, we all just like, what would we do without him? And I think this would be, because we love the first 4 in the play-in games. Now we watch them and it's exciting. So we just got to get used to watching 4 more games before that one. They labeled it, what did they say in the article? The Dirty 8, something like that.
Do you guys go ahead with, or are you guys on board at least a little with, there's way more Division I teams than there were when they went to 64, so that makes sense that the percentage of teams that make the NCAA tournament will be closer to the same.
But I don't think you're right in that respect. But
I think there used to be under 300 Division I team in the late 90s. There was still probably right around 300 at most. Now there's 360 something,
and they're trying to get a percentage of that in the tournament, which will end up being mostly power 4 conferences that are getting, the extra bid or two, but people just want to see good basketball. And if you put it in front of them, especially during March, they're going to watch it because there's going to be an upset, whether you believe it or not. Somebody's team is going to get in, and we're just going to continue to go as business as usual once we get past that.
I prefer exclusivity.
I do too, but
The fewer teams that make the playoffs, I think, the better. You
Yeah.
need to earn
with
your
you.
way, not just in this tournament. I mean, in all sports. As I said, you know how much I love the Stanley Cup playoffs. We will talk Predators and Stanley Cup playoffs later in the program. Elliotte Friedman will join us at 5. But half the teams in the NHL make the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think that's too much, but that's just me.
But I do think you make a good point. It needs to be special when you make the NCAA tournament. Even if you lose in the first round, making the NCAA tournament should, in and of itself, be a special
don't
thing.
you think it'll be special for them that make it? The other 4 that make
well,
it?
I think when you go to 76, it's still
It's
vital.
diluted.
It's what you're going to, as a coach, it's what is going to have you keeping your job or losing your job. You got to make the NCAA tournament. If there's 76, it won't mean as much.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, there is a team in the NFL that appears to be doing what a lot of Titans fans wished the Titans would have done a year ago. We will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Celebrate Cinco de Mayo early with 1025 The Game at Social Cantina in Germantown this Saturday. There will be music from 3 to 6, drink specials, swag giveaways, raffles, and patio party vibes all day long. Grab your crew and celebrate Cinco de Mayo the right way at Social Cantina.
people around them, and that's the most important thing. What's your philosophy, whether it's a rookie or a young guy, and how fast he should play? I mean, is it completely open with you in terms of how he would develop during camp, or would you rather a veteran kind of come in and show him the way?
I think in a perfect world that he's watching a mature adult, go and run an offense and run the team. But you don't. The situation is you might have that player, you might not. You might not have that veteran to show him the way. So he might come in and have to play immediately. But you'd rather him learn before he gets in the game. You don't always get to pick. It just doesn't work out the exact way you want it to. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're bringing in an individual, drafting a guy that is mature enough to handle some adversity, whether it's him starting the first game or him starting the first game year 2.
That was new Las Vegas Raiders coach Clint Kubiak at the NFL owner meetings. So that was before the NFL draft. And everybody knew who the Raiders were going to take number 1 overall, Fernando Mendoza. And that's exactly what the Raiders did. I thought that was an interesting answer because, look, all last spring and summer, we had this debate, right? Should the Titans start Cam Ward right away, or should they sit him and ease him in to becoming a starting NFL quarterback? For the time being, it appears that the Raiders are intent on sitting Fernando Mendoza. A few days after Clint Kubiak said what you just heard, they went out and spent $20 million to bring in Kirk Cousins. Of course, the Titans did not do that. They brought in Brandon Allen. But look, many teams have pledged to do what Clint Kubiak just said, and few have actually carried through. But Willie, I am fascinated by this because I can only imagine the reaction if, one, Fernando Mendoza does not start his first game for the Las Vegas Raiders, and if Cam Ward struggles to start year 2. I can only imagine what some of you might be thinking at that point. The Titans should have sat Cam Ward. Look at what the Raiders are doing. So I am interested to see how the Raiders handle Mendoza.
Well, first of all, the phrase "look at what the Raiders are doing" usually doesn't come in.
That is true. That is a phrase that has been rarely uttered in recent history.
Tom Brady is recently with the Raiders. He probably has a pretty sizable opinion on this. Here's my question for you, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
How much, if you go in and say, let's naturally see when he earns the job. Eventually he's going to start, but they've got Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do the reps? Do you still give, and how much does giving the guy all the reps with the starters affect a guy's development?
I think it affects it a lot because you want to get used to the guys you will be throwing to in a game. And it's usually 4 deep guys you're going to be consistently throwing it to. So those reps are key because you want to try to get on the same page with all those other guys. And not to say working with the second unit isn't beneficial, but, there was only so many times that Steve and I, before I became a starter, Steve and I worked consistently together. And I came in on third down every once in a while and we would work, but all of my work, and thankfully for me, came with Neil O'Donnell, who was a former starting quarterback, a Super Bowl starting quarterback in this league. So it was just like getting reps with a starter. So that worked out for me. But in a lot of other cases it really don't. So I think, like the Titans, I think the Vegas Raiders, their first sort of thought would be, let's sit the guy. But if he is digesting what he needs to digest, and it seems like he's sort of ahead of schedule, then you got to rethink what your initial plan was, because you don't want to hold a guy back just for the sake of, I don't want to mess him up, or he's a rookie. If he's proven to you that he's picking up on offense, the team is buying in, the team is sort of gravitating toward him being that young leader, then you let the natural process happen. You just don't all of a sudden, because I think if you go in thinking we're going to sit this guy and you get into camp and then all of a sudden things start changing slowly, it's like, okay, now what do we do with this? What do we do with Kirk Cousins?
That's what strikes me sometimes, Adam, is the given team seems to make up their mind right before they ever really let the process play out and see when he's ready or not.
It's to take the pressure. I think sometimes when they say, well, he's not starting.
Yeah.
It's really to take the pressure off the player, because ultimately you want him to know enough or more than enough to be able to start. Isn't that the goal?
Now, Adam, we went through some numbers last year of the history of quarterbacks who sit at least for the first 6 or 7 games, as opposed to quarterbacks who start on day one or sit a full year.
We
right?
did, yes. And by the way, from Josh Dubow of the Associated Press, in the common draft era, 20 of 29 quarterbacks taken number 1 overall started their first game. 20 of 29. So if the Raiders...
And that screams, we feel obligated, we have to play him because he's the first pick in the draft.
Here's something else I wonder, too. I'm wondering about the strength of the division. The Tennessee Titans play in the AFC South. A lot of people consider the AFC South to be the weakest division in football. In the AFC West, where the Raiders are, you've got the Chiefs, you've got the Chargers, and you've got the Broncos. I do wonder if that factors into the decision, because the Raiders, I would say, are miles away from competing in that division specifically. So do you think that enters the equation for the Raiders? They're not realistically challenging those other teams right away, versus Cam Ward and the Titans. Their path is a bit clearer.
Maybe. I don't know what each individual team's thought process is, but the numbers that we looked at did show that quarterbacks who sat at least, say, the first half of the season or right around there tended to do better than the quarterbacks who just jumped in there from day one. And I think it's a really interesting question to go back and ask, had the Titans not started Cam Ward, had they taken this approach, would that have been good for Cam or not good for Cam? He survived it. So in retrospect,
it was good.
He survived.
Well, I mean, you can.
And that's about all he did for, especially the first 6 or 7 games. Like it was really rough. A lot of those
and
games.
then you can see the sort of development as the season went on in real time, and that was a joy to see, at least for me, watching him. But you can also look at what the Denver Broncos did. I think before the season, before Bo Nix took over, I don't think anybody truly thought that the Broncos was going to compete in that division with Harbaugh and Andy Reid, and so it was like maybe they come in third. But it's all about not necessarily whether you start him or not. It's what do you have around him that may make his job a little bit easier. I go back to Joe Flacco. Job was a lot easier because he didn't have to do as much. We're gonna manage the game. We got a really good defense. We got some players on offense. We're just gonna manage this. We're not gonna put a lot on your shoulders. Denver did the same thing with Bo Nix. We're gonna short pass, not put you in these complicated things, do things that you like to do or that benefit you, but we're gonna play really good on defense. So we can sort of minimize your mistakes. Maybe that's what the Titans thought at the beginning of the season. Because if you look at it, their defense was the only thing that was going to give them an opportunity to win games last year. It was their defense. And then what happened? We were always saying the first 8 games, their defense is doing enough for them to win. But when the defense started getting hurt, that's when everything really started to fall apart. Now they were able to regroup on offense, started to develop a little bit. But if you're going to put a guy in there, or if you feel you have to, you better have things around him that'll make his job a little bit easier.
I just think it will be interesting to, where's my bell, juxtapose what the Raiders appear to be doing versus what the Titans decided to do. The Titans, there was never any question that Cam Ward was going to be the starting quarterback.
They pretty much committed to it.
They committed to it immediately. It was only confirmed by the fact that they went out and signed, Brandon Allen to be the backup quarterback. At that point, you knew this is Cam Ward's show. The Raiders signed a veteran quarterback with a ton of starting experience and paid a lot of money for Kirk Cousins. So I think it will be interesting to see if the Raiders actually go through with this. I think it will be interesting to watch through the prism of the Titans because of how committed they were at this time last year. There was never a question. We never debated. We talked about, should they? We talked about the history. Willie, you brought that up. But we all knew Cam's going to start. It was never a question of, is Cam Ward going to start the season opener? No, we knew that immediately. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the Raiders handle this versus how the Titans handle
Well, it's always easier to go from your veteran to your rookie than to go from your rookie back to your veteran. That then you start to lose confidence in your fan base. They start to lose confidence. The young quarterback may start to lose confidence. So it would be in this situation, if this is what they're thinking and this is what they're trying to convey to their fan base, and honestly, you got to convey this to your head coach and your GM because their job is on the line. You know, if Kirk Cousins is your starter and you're not winning games, am I going to get fired? Or if I choose to put the young guy out there like y'all possibly want and he's losing games, do I lose my job?
Let's quickly go to our friend Mark in Nashville on our phone line. Mark, it's been a minute. How are you?
Yeah, it has been a minute. How you doing, Adam, D, Mace, Willie?
We're good.
I know y'all miss me, man.
Of
You
course.
can't help but miss the number one call with stuff. I know you do. Just go and admit it.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Exactly.
Mark.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've just been a little busy, but hey, I appreciate all the compliments y'all giving my Raiders because see the coach that we got, Clint Kubiak, he should have been in Nashville anyway. Nothing against Robert Saleh, no, not at all. But we're gonna do some things, and the way he's approaching this with Mendoza, I like that. We wouldn't got Kirk Cousins for a minute. He's not gonna be out there long. Don't worry about it, Adam. Mendoza will be out there calling shots before long. He's got the greatest in the game in his head every day, out there talking to him and schooling him and telling him what he needs to be doing and what he doesn't need to be doing. We had a great draft. I think we're ahead of the Titans a little bit, D-Mace. You'll probably disagree with me, but
you're damn right I'm going to disagree.
Well, in this case, you're damn wrong. But yeah, but my Raiders, we're back, and yeah, we're in a tough division with Herbert and Harbaugh and Mahomes and those guys. But hey, we're on the come up. I'm proud of them. I'm finally happy for them because I think we're going to get some stability in there like we need to do. Hey, Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Mark. How's Sugar Free?
How you doing, man? Yeah, Sugar Free's good.
Good,
man.
good.
We're good.
I'm glad to hear it.
We're good. Yeah, but hey, Willie, I'm dealing with the Mets. I'm dealing with them.
You never were on board to begin with. To think about me, Mark.
Yes, I was, Willie. Willie, I went out and got a jacket, a Mets hat, everything. I did. Well, I told you about that. Hey, but then
and so now you've thrown them away because they're 10-21.
I'm not only am I throwing it away, I'm gonna put some gasoline on them and burn them up. That's what I'm gonna do with them. That's what I'm gonna do.
Thank you, Mark. Glad to hear from you.
Hey, man, y'all have a good day. Later on, D-Mace.
All right, you too, Mark.
Adam.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, see you, man.
Mark, it's been a long time. It's been a while.
Eli does mention on our text line, the Tom Brady of it all. I wonder what influence Tom Brady has on this because of his personal experience.
I think philosophically, it's better to take the approach of let's start with the idea that he doesn't have to be out there on day one. Now, I'm curious because what you get when you declare he's the guy, he's going in on day one, that you set everything around him. He's going to take all the first team reps. He gets those things. Does that help his development quicker, or does the development, is it a trade-off when you are, quote unquote, just watching the veteran do his thing for a while? What's the trade-off there?
615-737-1025. We can pick this up on the other side. We'll take your reaction as well. I also want to get to something that Derek pointed out to me earlier today about the Titans perhaps being undervalued? We'll discuss that coming up next. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Hey, if you've lived in Middle Tennessee for any time, then you've seen how wild our weather can be. From storms, from winter storms, tornadoes to flooding, we've seen it all. Like many of you, the winter storm earlier this year caught me off guard and unprepared. I lost power for 7 days. That was 7 days out of my house, 7 days in a hotel, 7 days just worrying about whether a pipe was going to burst or something to that effect. That's when I realized being prepared isn't an option anymore. I'll be ready the next time this weather emergency hits. So I started looking around for whole home generators and found Tri-State Water Power and Air. They've been in business for over 30 years, specializing in generators for more than half of those, which is all great, people. But the reason I reached out to them was because of the reviews and the confidence other homeowners shared about their experience at Tri-State Water Power and Air. When Tri-State came, my power specialist, Nathan, when he came to the house, they did a free on-site assessment, made sure the generator fit the home for me and my family. The thing I appreciated the most was they didn't try to oversell me. They didn't try to sell me a unit that was much bigger than my house. They sold me what I wanted. Just straight answers, turnkey, and they handle everything in-house. We've seen it all before. Also, where you buy something, you got to go through a third person to get it fixed. Not at Tri-State Water Power and Air. Everybody is in-house. So I'm making one call to Tri-State Water Power and Air because they've got it covered. That's the kind of relationship I want, and I know that's the kind of relationship you want. So look, the weather isn't slowing up anytime soon here. Be ready. Call Tri-State Water Power and Air today to protect your home and your family like I did. Find them at tristatewhywait.com. That's tristatewhywait.com.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Elliotte Friedman, Sportsnet NHL insider extraordinaire, will join us at the top of the hour. We'll get into the Predators GM search, which is still ongoing, and more with our friend Elliotte Friedman at 5 o'clock. We will also discuss the Predators in this hour as well. But before we do, Derek, you brought to my attention earlier today a post from Todd McShay. And it was a sponsored post from Todd McShay for FanDuel Sportsbook. But he said, quote, there's a much clearer picture on FanDuel Sportsbook, NFL futures now that the draft is behind us. 3 teams being undervalued. The Titans at 6.5 wins, the Chargers at 9.5 wins, and the Giants at 7.5 wins. Take a look for yourself, says Todd McShay. And I mentioned this the other day, that I went and looked at the over-under win totals for the Titans after the draft because I wanted to see if there was any movement. And there wasn't. I believe the Titans opened at 6.5 wins when these odds came out a couple of months ago. So you wanted me to find out who the biggest overachievers in the NFL last season were based on their preseason over-under win totals. I found 3 teams that exceeded their expected win total by 5.5 wins. The Patriots, 8.5 to 14, AFC champions. The Seahawks, 8.5 wins to 14, Super Bowl champions. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, 7.5 wins to 13, AFC South champions. So those 3 teams had the best seasons compared to what their projected win totals were. And you wanted us to discuss, what did those 3 teams have in common so that the Titans can potentially make that sort of a jump or close to it this season?
Yeah, because if you look at the Titans, and I think once free agency started, after it sort of died down and the Titans got who they got, I think people were optimistic about the Titans and, you know, the holes that they were able to fill with the players that they brought in via free agency. So we just looked at it as, okay, compared to what this team was last year, a 3-win team, and the personnel that a few of these guys aren't here anymore, how have they upgraded? They went out and got John Franklin Meyer, obviously Jermaine Johnson, Jordan Elliott. They went and got guys that are still playing at a really good level. Elliotte Taylor, Cordell Flott, Joshua Williams. These are guys that they went out and got. So you look at that, then you put on top of it the draft, and people are saying, well, they had a really good draft. They addressed some needs that they had on the offensive line. Now, whether that works out or not is yet to be seen because it's a competition. But they went and got them a number 1 receiver. They got some guys, a linebacker, inside backer, then an outside backer. They could put his hand on the ground. So they went and got all these things that we said were deficiencies within their team. A team that won 3 games last year. Now you look at it and you say, well, new coordinators, defense and offense, new head coach, guys that have had some success at their respective positions, meaning offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and you figure how does that project to a second-year quarterback that started looking good second half of the season, a receiver that's coming back that is fully healthy. You go out and get another 1,000-yard receiver. So how does all of this project? And I think maybe this may be one of those situations. And Willie said it. It's easy to get to 7 wins in a year, especially if your schedule's a little bit lighter. Things happen. So getting that 7, possibly 8 wins, it's not easy, but it's easier. It's that 8 to 12 or 8 to 13. That's going to be hard. I'm just looking at it and saying, well, maybe the Titans are undervalued. Maybe they are the New England Patriots of last year, or the Seattle Seahawks of last year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, but I'm saying a team that was undervalued at the beginning of the season, and then they get in the season, and for whatever reason, they end up winning more games than was projected.
Here's what I would say, Willie. the Titans raised their floor. They brought in a lot of professionals, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I think the Titans overall have a higher floor. But two things can be true, and you pointed this out yesterday, that improvements were made, but the under is still the likely scenario. Two things can be true. The Titans can look more like a professional football team, but still finish under 6.5 wins. And it depends on how you view it on whether that makes this team a success next season or not.
And there's a big variable about the strength of schedule, because some years you catch breaks. You might play a team in your division that loses their quarterback early in the year and their season is sunk. And that looks very different than it did when the schedule comes out. So there's a lot of examples of when you catch a team that was really good last year that is part of why your schedule looks a certain way, and it just completely changes for whatever reason, injuries or whatnot. I also think that, the Titans, where they are, they have all the players back that they wanted to have back, right? They weren't forced into salary cap decisions that had them losing somebody, even somebody like Chig, right? If they wanted to bring back Chig, they could have brought back Chig. They just went a different direction. So they should be better. They should. So I guess I'm wondering where it's coming from McVay, why they think they're on that list of the most undervalued. It's all philosophical, right? Because you can say, well, it looks like they made some shrewd moves, that Robert Saleh, maybe he's got some pieces on defense, the way he likes to play. It looks better on paper. But until you start playing, there's no way you can really know that.
How much of it is Saleh? Because Saleh's tenure as a head coach was unsuccessful in New York. We know he's a damn good defensive coordinator, but he was 20-36 as head coach of the New York Jets. I wonder how much that plays into the equation, that he's getting a second chance to be a head coach, but his first chance did not go well. There were a ton of factors. We read to you at one point the list of the quarterbacks who started games for the Jets when Robert Saleh was the coach, including Zach Wilson and God, what was the name of the guy that the Titans had who was really bad? He was like the third string. Why am I forgetting his name?
That played quarterback for the Jets?
No, who played for the Titans this season. He was like the third string quarterback in the preseason. Why am I forgetting
Tim Boyle?
Name? Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle.
That's why you forgot his name.
Yes, Tim Boyle started actual games for Robert Saleh in New York. So that plays into the 20-36 record. Thank you. I would have forgotten Tim Boyle. How could I possibly forget Tim Boyle?
Tim Boyle.
Of all people.
But I do
listening.
I do wonder if Saleh and his underwhelming record as a head coach factors into this.
I think it factors in a lot, because you go no further than in the AFC, New England. The year before Vrabel got there, this team, nobody predicted them. They had come off a losing season. Then when Mayo got the job, nobody predicted anything big, and they ended up having another. Actually, they predicted they would probably more than likely have the number one pick or somewhere around there. And then lo and behold, they get the number one pick. They draft May. Well, not the number one pick, but a top 5 pick. They draft May. And May starts to look good toward the latter part of the season, sort of like Cam Ward. But the big difference is here, you hire Vrabel, who had success, who was a coach of the year. You hired Vrabel. So automatically now everybody, especially how it ended in here in Nashville. So there are a lot of people that are on his side and that is pushing it. So automatically you're thinking, because of Vrabel's persona, this team is going to be better. No doubt. They got the quarterback. They're going to get these free agents. This is going to be a much better team. And they were. But then 2 years later, you look at the Titans, and it's not that much fanfare. Not because I don't think this team or people don't believe this team has made some upgrades, because they have. The guy that is sitting at the helm hasn't had success like Vrabel did. Had he come in here with the success that Vrabel came in here with, even though people believe in him now, I believe the sum total of the prediction of record will be higher.
By the way, the Titans schedule, which is not official, where's our guy Mike North when we need him? But we know who the Titans are playing next season, other than their divisional rivals. They're playing the Browns, Jets, Eagles, Steelers, Commanders, Ravens, Bengals, Cowboys, Lions, Raiders, and Giants.
That is not a soft schedule, by no means. But I think that's where the NFL. But like Willie said, it's not necessarily the team is when you play them. They could be missing a player. You play them on Thursday night. You play them when they had a Thursday game, and it's just so many other factors that are involved in it. And it's not just because the league. I think the league went to this sort of extra game so they wouldn't have an 8-8. Because theoretically, they want every team to be 8-8 because that's parity. It brings eyes. People always feel like their team can win a championship. So when you're looking at the Titans, I just think they've done a lot more than what they're being given credit for. Not only was, changes within the coaching staff, but you changed the GM. You've got rid of Brinker. You've done so many things within that organization that is pointing in the right direction. Now, will it ultimately end in wins? I don't know, but I think they could potentially be, at least in the regular season, and I'm not talking about them winning 14 games either. They can be a version of New England. Not to say they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, not to say they're going to win 14 games, but what if they win 9 games, 10 games? That's 6-7 more games than what they won last year.
All of these things, somebody falls into one of those categories every year. But go back to, is it Todd McShay that had the tweet about the 3 teams?
Yes.
Read that again.
All right, hold on. I've got to pull it back up. He said, I've totally lost it. Give me a second. Vamp. He mentioned the Chargers, Giants, and Titans as teams he believes are undervalued by the sportsbook.
Okay, so why do we think he has the Titans in that group of 3? Because that's an optimistic outlook, right?
I would say
That
so.
they're
That's not,
yes.
he thinks they're going to stink. He's like, hey, that's low. They're going to be better than that. Why do you think he thinks that?
Yes, the Titans, the Chargers, and the Giants. Now I finally got to.
I think he's looking at it from a totality. Like, what have they done as a whole? How much better have they made this team? And he may see it.
I mean, it doesn't sound like he's necessarily saying they're going to make the playoffs, but he's basically saying that 6.5 seems low.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
So
why does he think that? I mean, I'd be curious to hear more about why he picked those 3 teams. And then when you really, start getting excited is when you are reading the 3 teams last year that made those jumps, and you're asking, why did they make a jump? Certainly quarterback play is at the top of the list. It increased for both of those teams. Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. The Drake May from year 1 to year 2 made a huge jump.
Trevor Lawrence had a great year.
Trevor Lawrence had
year.
a good bounce back season.
He stayed
from
healthy
the year before, stayed healthy for sure.
So I would put quarterback play first and foremost for all of those teams.
But they definitely made shrewd roster moves as well. All 3 of those.
Well,
teams.
the Patriots, we talked about this.
And what's interesting about the Jags is they didn't get any big return on the Travis Hunter trade,
right,
and yet still overcame it.
Well, we talked about the Patriots in the lead up to the Super Bowl because the Patriots flooded the zone, so to speak, in free agency last year. They spent a ton of money and they filled as many holes as they possibly could. They brought in recognizable veterans such as Stephon Diggs, for example, and Harold Landry, for example. And I do think that played a part in it. Again, I think the Titans look like a more professional outfit this coming season, especially on defense. And then you've got Cam Ward in year 2. He made strides in the second half of the season. You're getting Calvin Ridley back. You signed Wan'Dale Robinson. You drafted Carnell Tate. So there's optimism about Cam Ward in year 2. So I can sort of see the idea of why someone would consider the Titans being undervalued at 6.5 wins. Add on the fact that I know I mentioned Robert Saleh and his head coaching record, but we know that Robert Saleh is a successful defensive coach. You make those adjustments, you make those renovations on the defensive side of the ball, and you bring in Robert Saleh to coach that side of the ball. So I can see where people would think, hey, 6.5 wins seems low for the Tennessee Titans. At the same time, as I said before, I think 2 things can be true. That the Titans can have a higher floor this season, look better, look more competitive each week, and still finish under 6.5 wins. I think that's realistic too.
Yeah, it is. But them going from, I think, 3 wins to 8 wins, I could see that being realistic too. Just because of how this league has this sort of ebb and flow. They've added good players to their roster. They've changed the mentality of their locker room. And you just hope that with those changes, you're bringing 2 guys again that have had a lot of success at coaching their respective positions, whether it be offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. And you just hope all of that contributes to them, winning more than 6.5 games. I think winning eight games is a win for this organization in the second year of with your second year quarterback and your first year head coach and offensive coordinator. You win 8 games. That has to be a win.
Let's quickly go to Dustin in Hopkinsville on our phone line. Dustin, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, guys. I think he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. I mean, you remember Rand Carthon and Vrabel when they were together? He would say, "We out here hunting together," whatever that bullcrap is. They faked it. These guys, he was at the Jets. Robert Saleh was. They're a terrible organization. We could say the same about the Titans. While Amy makes a lot of terrible moves, we just aren't the Jets, and she gets it right every now and then. She got Vrabel and Robinson. That went well for a while. I think she imploded a bit. Who knows with everything going on with Vrabel now? But now she's got Borgonzi, and it took one season and a draft, and Chad Brinker either was told step down or you're getting fired. I think he really man, I'm nothing in this draft. I'm nothing to this team. I just feel like the toilet cleaner. I'm gonna go ahead and pack up, guys. Thank you for your time. But I see the way they make moves, the way they're quiet about things. When Vrabel was here in the whole dynasty at Rossini, before anything ever come up years ago, I thought that things got out a little too easy, and I believe that's where it came from. This team is just structured as a solid business. This is ball. You let the players play, but they're structuring a business, and they're running it right. And when I heard Robert Saleh talk the first day he got here, I knew we had our guy as coach, as at least a leader of men, and his defenses everywhere he goes are top 5. I mean, and we already had a defense that, in my opinion, exceeded expectations last year. And I really liked our defensive coach. What was his name? I can't remember.
Thank you for the call, Dustin.
It was Denard Wilson.
Denard Wilson. One texter says, Titans are going to win at least 5 at home and 3 on the road. Hammer the over. Okay.
I hope so.
That's optimism. 615-737-1025. Are the Titans being undervalued at 6.5 wins by the odds maker? 615-737-1025. Coming up next, I want to piggyback off of a conversation that Robbie and Rexroad had this morning about the Predators, because it got me thinking about where they want to be and if there's something out there that could help them get there. 615-737-1025. Today, Vanderbilt baseball takes on Alabama in Tuscaloosa. First pitch is at 6 o'clock. Catch all of the action right here on 102.5 The Game. Coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura.
I feel like I've answered this hundreds of times that none of that I feel like I've never shown. I've never said. None of those things ever came out of my mouth, and quite honestly, it's just getting frustrating. It's becoming a distraction, and because I have been fully committed to this team, to the city, and it's just becoming a distraction, frustrating to deal with.
That was Ottawa Senators captain Brady Tkachuk yesterday, talking about all of the rumors surrounding his future with the Senators organization. And I want to piggyback off of a conversation that Robbie and Rexroad had this morning about Brady Tkachuk. Now, before we begin, I think we need to add a couple of disclaimers. Number one, we have no idea who the Predators GM is going to be. We'll have Elliotte Friedman on in 30 minutes. Maybe he'll be able to tell us more. That's the first disclaimer. Number two, you know what my plan is if I were leading the Predators this coming season. If you missed it, here it is summarized. I would move on from as many veterans as I realistically could, and I emphasize the word realistically, because trading Philip Forsberg and trading Roman Josi and trading UC Saros, that's unrealistic. So I would part with as many veterans as I realistically could and fill all of their roster spots with prospects. And I would use next season as a fact-finding mission to see which young players can be parts of this team moving forward. Those are the disclaimers. However, if you heard what Steven Stamkos and Philip Forsberg and Barry Trotz and others said, I believe it was last week when they wrapped up the season with news conferences, it sounds like the Predators intend to compete for the playoffs next season. Is that what I would do? You know the answer to that. But that's what they seem to think. And if that is what they intend to do, I say if Brady Tkachuk suddenly becomes available for trade, should the Predators be in on him? I can be talked into it. Willie, what do you think of that idea?
It's a big if Brady Tkachuk actually hits the trade market. But if he does, if I'm the Predators, I would be aggressive to get him because of where he is in his career. It's rare that a player of his caliber at his age becomes available via trade. And this is one of the areas where having a deep prospect pool, a lot of draft picks, and a lot of cap space help you be able to put together a package that maybe not every team could manage. So I think they could put a pretty attractive package together for Ottawa, because if you're Ottawa and to me, the only reason that they would actually trade Brady Tkachuk is that if Brady Tkachuk quietly told them behind the scenes, look, I don't want to go public with it, but the clock is ticking. I'm like my brother. I've done a good job for Ottawa, but I would like to test the market in a couple years and probably find a new home. If he tells them that, then Ottawa's got to trade him. But Ottawa would have a hard time getting a great return on a player of his caliber, because his value goes beyond the actual goals and assists that he scores. So if I'm Nashville, if I'm the Predators, I would be having meetings right now saying, if this happens, what would we put together in a package? Because I think you could put together a good package. Now, remember, Ottawa has been patiently going through a slow rebuild that they're just starting to see some benefits from. They've made the playoffs the last 2 years. They had missed for a long time. They have slowly built their nucleus, and they committed to that nucleus financially early before they had won. So they got their guys. So trading Brady Tkachuk, it's not like they're going to go into a rebuild, right? They're going to want to stay where they are and find a way to get better by trading him. And this is where it's going to be tough, because I don't know if they can do that without taking a step back.
Now, would it mean that because you got to put together potentially a package good enough to even get them to the table? Because he's a driver. He's one of those guys that's going to drive your offense, your team. So what package would be to start? Would it be Stamkos, O'Reilly?
Here,
And other,
now this
you
is the
know,
question.
well,
This is the
here,
question.
let's lay
Now,
out,
remember,
then you got to
Brady-
trade off on contracts too.
let's lay out some facts about Brady Tkachuk.
Mm-hmm.
He has 2 years left on his contract. His cap hit is around $8.2 million.
That's a bargain.
He has a no movement clause in his contract, so he controls the process.
Which is, keep that in mind, because that's where Nashville, as the quote destination city, could get in.
And he turns 27 in September. So he's still in the prime of his career. He's been in the league for 8 years. Per 82 games, he's averaged 30.5 goals and 66.4 points per 82 games. He did have a rough postseason, 0 points in 4 games as the Senators were swept by the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round.
But remember, gold medal, Team USA. So he played all the Olympics.
4 nations face off. He became a star during that last season.
And he helped lead Ottawa out of a big hole to get to the playoffs. So, because they were way behind. And he's their captain, right? He has residual value too, he is a hockey dude, right? He's a power forward. He's intimidating. He's a 30-goal scorer. He's got so much that he brings to the table. And so I'm willing to be okay with maybe he was a little burned out in that playoff series.
Here,
and the Hurricanes never lose in the first round anyway. That's the
true.
one team that seems to be immune to any first round exits.
That is true. So to answer Derek's question, I was thinking about this earlier today. As Willie said, the Senators are in a position now where they've made the playoffs a couple of years in a row. They are trying to legitimately compete. So I do not think this would be a picks and prospects futures kind of deal. Well, we'll give you this pick and that pick and this prospect and that prospect. I think you have to be prepared to give up roster players. There is one player I think would have to be included in this because I think he fits in with Ottawa's window. I think Luke Evangelista would have to be part of it. I think he would have to be a part of the deal. I also think that if I were the Predators and I would have to probably throw in a sweetener, an extra pick, I would try to get them to take Jonathan Marchessault. And what's one thing we've heard about him? Maybe he wants to be closer to home. Ottawa's on the border of Ontario and Quebec. It's a bilingual city, Ottawa. Perhaps he's open to that. I would try to get Ottawa to take Marchessault off my hands. If I have to retain a little bit, if I have to throw in a sweetener, I would do it. But to me, I think one player who would probably have to be involved is Luke Evangelista.
Intriguing. The Marchessault thing is intriguing as well because keep in mind the factor with Marchessault and Brady Tkachuk. They both have a say, so they both have to say, "Yeah, I can see myself. I would do that." So let's just say Brady Tkachuk has Nashville on a list of teams. Yeah, I would be willing to go to Nashville. This is all hypothetical, right? Brady Tkachuk has said the opposite of all this. He's saying, I'm staying here. I've been loyal to the city. I don't want to go anywhere. But you do wonder behind the scenes what's really going on there, especially based on what happened with his brother. And remember when his brother got traded, they did get 2 main guys off of the Florida roster, Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar, which was a big win for the Panthers. But at the time, those were 2 pretty valuable players, productive players for the Panthers in the prime of their career.
I believe
Huberdeau has really slumped.
I believe he
since
was
he got to Calgary.
a top 5 MVP candidate
Yes.
the year before he was
huge,
traded.
Some
Huberdeau.
huge numbers. Yeah.
Yes. So, and Brady Tkachuk, I don't think is as valuable a player as Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk has a couple of 100-point seasons on his resume. I don't believe Brady has come close to those totals.
He's had an 83-point season.
That's as close as he's gotten. So it's an interesting conversation. And look, sports talk radio is about entertainment. So we know that we are speculating. We have no idea whether this will ever happen. You heard what Brady Tkachuk said. It's a distraction. I love this city. But we have heard a lot of athletes over time say those things and then leave. But this is my ultimate point. If the Predators intend on competing for the playoffs next season, that appears to be their stated goal. This is the type of move a team that is trying to get back into the playoff mix would make. They have hoarded draft picks. They have one of the top prospect systems in the NHL. The Predators aren't going to use all of those draft picks to draft players.
And they can't possibly use all the prospects that are on that prospect list.
Right. So this is an opportunity, again, a hypothetical opportunity, but an opportunity nonetheless. This is the type of opportunity where all of these draft picks, all of these prospects can help you acquire an NHL player, a proven NHL player, a popular NHL player, a hard-nosed NHL player who can help you in your goal of getting back to the playoffs.
I also think a guy of Brady Tkachuk's name recognition in Nashville is a big-time match. That is a put people in the seats kind of guy.
Like PK Subban was.
Yeah, I mean, PK is on his own level, right?
Yes.
But Brady Tkachuk has
yes.
he has a charisma about him. He has, and it's another guy that is a leader, right? To put with a group of guys who are older, but also that same kind of leader. So I think you put a lot of chips on the table. Evangelista is one that you know, in a perfect world, you would not want to part with somebody like that. But
you got to give something to get something.
You do. I didn't want to trade Seth Jones. So I was like, I think I traded Seth Jones. I love Seth Jones. But they had to do it to get Ryan Johansson. That was a really intriguing trade. So the questions are, like, who is Barry Trotz right now in his group? Are they thinking about this? Are they talking about this? I don't know. Or are they just saying, well, we'll just see who the next guy is, and we'll let that person tackle it. But to me, it's intriguing because that's the kind of guy. And I think with knowing, well, I can't say I know this, but I have heard that the Tkachuk family, as a family, loves Nashville as a city. So if you can get on a fairly exclusive list of, all right, there are 32 teams in the league, these 26 teams or 22 teams, whatever he says, these teams are off limits. But here's my list. And Nashville is on a small list. That's a big advantage for Nashville. And then you just have to outcompete those other handful of teams that are on that radar.
So what you're saying is it would have to start with Evangelista and Marshall Soap and nothing more, or would they have to?
I think there would have
That's
to
what
be
I was
more.
thinking. Like you just said, those two people.
I think
there would have to be more.
It has to take more than that.
Yeah.
Yes,
but they have those. That's the easier part of it. Is you can line up a lot of picks and a lot of prospects.
Because if you're the Senators in this situation and you're trading your captain who's in the prime of his career, the Senators were bad for a long time. They collected a lot of top draft picks, such as Tim Stützle. They traded for Dylan Cousins from Buffalo last season. They've got a relatively young team. Their core is young. They've got Jake Sanderson on the back end. So you're probably looking for a player, a proven NHL player who's in that age range. And Luke Evangelista is 24. He's coming off of a 56-point season. I think that's a player you would have to part with as part of this deal. 615-737-1025. We're having fun in late April here. If Brady Tkachuk is available for trade, should the Predators be in on him? 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction. Plus, we'll talk about the Predators GM search ahead of Elliotte Friedman joining us at 5 o'clock coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Well, let me put it this way. when somebody like Fitz decides to part ways with an organization and does so knowing that he does have some support and ownership in New Jersey where maybe he could have hung around, it tells me that there might be something, he's in the back of his mind thinking about could be the next step for him, or that he's heard could be the next step for him. So I imagine he's in the mix. Personally, I'm in favor of a fresh perspective of a guy that hasn't gotten a shot yet to get a shot. But that's not to say that Fitz is it would be a bad hire. I think he did some really good things in New Jersey. I think it kind of got scrambly towards the end as he was trying to figure out how to get this team over the hump, and maybe made some decisions I wouldn't have made as general manager. But he knows how to build an organization. He knows how to populate the organization with talented people, and I don't think he'd be a bad hire. It's just that if my options are, new hotness or a retread, I'm going to take new hotness.
That was ESPN's Greg Wyshynski on the Chase and Big Joe show earlier today, talking about Tom Fitzgerald as a potential Predators GM candidate. We'll have Elliotte Friedman on in less than 15 minutes. We'll get back into the Predators GM search with Elliotte Friedman. And I know Tom Fitzgerald is in the mix. And I know how I felt initially. I called it a quote-unquote non-starter immediately upon learning that the New Jersey Devils and Tom Fitzgerald had parted ways. And astutely, Willie did point out that it's been like 25 years,
24 years
since Tom Fitzgerald
got traded.
Has been a member of the Predators
he played for
organization.
7 different teams. He's been with 2 other organizations. I mean, he's been around the block for a lot of places.
But I do believe that if Tom Fitzgerald is the hire as Predators GM, I do think he's going to have to use a wrestling term, fight from underneath, because I do think he is going to have to convince a lot of Predators fans that he is the right man for the job and that he didn't just get the job because he was the first captain in Predators history.
But I look at that as a plus. To me, it's a lot more, do you think he did a good job at New Jersey? That, as a Predator, if I'm a Predator fan, I would be leaning towards that more than he played for the Predators. We don't want anybody that played for the Predators. I mean, that's just an arbitrary thing. I look at it as a strength because he knows Nashville and appreciates Nashville, wants Nashville to succeed. To me, that is a positive. I'm much more, is he the right guy? When you evaluate him and the job he did with New Jersey, that's more pertinent to me than whether he was with the Predators or not. It was a very small chapter in a very long life of a hockey lifer as a player and as an executive.
Here is what we were discussing before the break. Although Brady Tkachuk told reporters yesterday that he's becoming frustrated with all of the rumors about him potentially leaving Ottawa, I think those rumors are going to persist. I don't think what he said yesterday is going to cause them to go away. So if the Predators are intent on competing for the playoffs, and if you heard Steven Stamkos, Philip Forsberg, Barry Trotz, and others when they held their end-of-season news conference, that's what the Predators' plan appears to be, although they haven't hired a GM yet, and who knows what that GM thinks. But let's take their word at face value. They are going to attempt to compete for the playoffs. Trading for Brady Tkachuk is the type of move that sort of team would make. Now, here is something I do want to discuss. One person on our YouTube chat mentions, this is not the summer you make that move. This year is about seeing which prospects will be the new core. When you have your young core solidified, then you grab your guy. Willie, you made the point that would be true if Brady Tkachuk were 32 years old.
Or even 30.
He's going to be 27 at the start of next season. So
he's a part of the youth.
Philip Forsberg is in his 30s. Roman Josi is in his 30s. Ryan O'Reilly is in his 30s. Steven Stamkos is in his 30s. So remember, we've talked about this. When those players, and UC Saros too, when those players move on, and you go to Bridgestone Arena, and there's that banner that huge banner outside the plaza entrance, 5th and Broadway. You see the pictures of O'Reilly and Stamkos and Forsberg and Yossi and Soros. Who's going to be on that poster when all of those players leave? In this hypothetical, Brady Tkachuk is front and center on that poster. Maybe Brady Martin's on that poster. UC Soros is probably still on that poster. But I understand the commenter's point. But I think with the age of Brady Tkachuk, and by the way, when the Panthers traded for Matthew Tkachuk, he was 24. So he was younger. But you're still getting Brady Tkachuk in this hypothetical in the prime of his career. So, to me, again, operating under the assumption that the Predators want to compete for the playoffs, Brady Tkachuk, I think, solves a couple of problems for them.
I think even if they were in we're competing for the playoffs, but we still are working on developing the next core. I'm still very interested in Brady Tkachuk because he can be part of the next core. Brady Tkachuk, to me, has got another 7-8 productive years left in him. He's a true power forward. Now, he's not the coveted center, right? He's a forward. But he is a guy that is hard to find. And at this stage of his career, like I said, it's rare that a guy even would get to the market. And we don't even know if he's going to get to the market. And to the texter's point, he makes a great point. But even if you did exactly what he was saying, see which prospects are good, see which ones you want to keep, which ones you want to discard. As assets, there's so many of them. I think trading a couple of them to get more of a known quantity of Brady Tkachuk, that's why you build those assets. That's part of how you use a deep prospect pool, because there just aren't enough spots on a team to use all of the prospects that they have in their system right now.
But wouldn't you have to be prepared then to sign him, because he's up for an extension? Was it next year?
Next year.
Yeah. So you have to be prepared to sign him to a long-term deal.
And I think you would gladly do that. And I think just getting him at 8.2 for 2 years is a great bargain too. That's not going to break your bank at all. He's worth every penny and more because he was signed at an early age, and he's worth way more than that right now. I think his next contract will probably easily be over 10, right?
Yeah, I would.
The way the cap is going and rising.
Yes. Quickly, one texter says, random related question. Why do NHL GMs get multiple second chances, but NFL GMs never do? It is an interesting question. I have wondered about that myself. It feels...
Is that true?
It feels that NFL GMs
they
don't get as many second chances. Huh. I mean, John Robinson...
I've never done the numbers to
John
verify that.
Robinson hasn't had a GM job, right? I mean, he's been in front offices, I believe, since then. But
right.
Who knows
none of the Titans GMs, since they've been in Tennessee, have been a GM anywhere else.
No.
Right?
I don't know.
Is that right? Fact?
That's right. Not
Floyd Reese, not Rustin Webster,
Mike
Reinfeldt. I'm just thinking
That's
of the guys.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. We'll continue this conversation and get more into the Predators GM search coming up next with Elliotte Friedman of Sportsnet. Earlier this week, Elliotte Friedman said there was a quote-unquote potential curveball in the Predators GM search. I wonder if he's learned anything since then. We'll ask him coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Yet another night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. 2 games tonight. Dallas at Minnesota, Edmonton at Anaheim. Oh, some fantastic games on tap tonight. And to help us discuss that and more, let's go to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com and welcome in our friend, Elliotte Friedman, Sportsnet NHL insider extraordinaire, who is presented by Old National Bank and Green Ventures Landscaping. Hi, Elliotte. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, gentlemen?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us as you do every week. And also, we appreciate the fact that you do your homework for us before you come on the show with us every week. And you said earlier this week on the 32 Thoughts podcast that there appears to be a potential curveball in the Predators GM search, as in somebody who's suddenly under consideration for the job. What more can
Well, what I would say is that, Adam, I remember last week you asked me if I thought they were taking too long or it was a problem that this was going long. And my answer is the same as it was then. I really don't care. You go and you get the right person as long as it takes. These are too important. But I was thinking more about it after I was on with you. And I kind of looked back at some of my notes, and it charted I charted kind of like the history of the search. They go through several introductory Zoom meetings. They bring about 4 or 5 people into Nashville. They interview 1 or 2 internal candidates, and then they're like, "No, we want to talk to more people." And normally, once you do that, you're kind of picking someone, right? And it was, "No, we want to talk to more people." And last week they had Tom Fitzgerald in there, the former GM of the New Jersey Devils, your first captain. And remind me to say something else about Fitzgerald in a minute, because I got an interesting DM from a Nashville fan. But and I said, okay, well, maybe this is the last one. Maybe this is the one that knocks it out of the park and it's over. And it's been about a week now since Fitzgerald was there, and it's still going on. And, what that says to me, Adam, is that either they haven't found the right person yet, or they're still waiting to talk to somebody. So when I say that there's a potential call, they just haven't found their right person yet, or they're still waiting to talk to someone. So I'm trying to figure out who could this person be. And I don't have an answer. I have some theories that maybe it's somebody who's still working with one of the teams that's still playing, but I don't have a specific answer.
So tell us about that DM you received about Tom Fitzgerald.
Yeah, so whenever I come on your show, like the thing you guys have down there that I really like is you guys have some real hardcore, true Predators fans. And whenever I come on, there's a few of them that will send follow-up questions. And they'll say, well, you got to ask this, and you said this, but you didn't say this. And sometimes, you respond. And somebody said to me, and I think you've mentioned it to me before, Adam, about this idea that Tom Fitzgerald is like old school Predators. And if they want new, which I do believe the Predators want, I think they want something new, how on earth does Tom Fitzgerald fit? I was like, the guy's been out of the organization for 25 years. It was like, he's not like, he's got a lot of respect for Barry Trotz and vice versa, obviously, because he was Trotz's captain. But it was just interesting. Like this person said to me, like, I don't understand why they go after Fitzgerald. It's just the same old, same old. And I said, he hasn't been there in a long time.
It's like almost a quarter of a century.
Oh, okay. He was like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. So it was just funny. Like, if there's other Predators fans who feel that way, it surprises me because, as Willie just said, it's been 25 years since he was there. He's worked for other organizations and he has other ideas as well. But that's why I'm sitting here wondering, Adam, because like I said, normally these searches go, you interview people, you make your list of finalists or your small list, you bring them in, and one of those people gets picked. they bring them in, and somebody gets picked. And that hasn't happened. As a matter of fact, it's kind of slowed down. So it's a little bit unusual, and it makes my reporter nature paranoid that I'm really missing something here.
I know what that feels like, Ellie. And you're right. When we talked last week, I did ask you if the Predators GM search is the most methodical of the GM searches going on, which might have been a nice way of saying slowest. And I hear what you're saying about, hey, they're gonna take as much time as they need to figure this out. I am wondering, however, at what point is it fair to start wondering if it's taking too long?
No, I don't think so, because I've heard, and I haven't heard it directly from him, because I think Bill Haslam has blocked my phone number. But I have heard that he has said that we have time. And so it says to me that, even people have been asking me, like, the draft lottery is on Tuesday night. And people have been asking me, do you think the draft lottery is a deadline for some of these teams? I don't think it is. I don't think that matters. The scouting combine, which is at the end of May, I think that might be more like, if you don't have somebody in charge by then, when you're watching the actual workouts or you're doing interviews, I would be concerned. Now, I don't know that the Predators are going to take that long, but I've heard that Bill Haslam has said we have time. So if he's not panicked about it, I'm not panicked about it.
Elliotte, earlier this week, the Predators landed KHL forward Vitaly Tkachuk, and free agent forwards from the KHL are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Everybody hopes it's Artemi Panarin. Sometimes you get Andrei Kuzmenko. But what can you tell us about Tkachuk and the Predators' recruitment of him?
Well, Tkachuk was a guy who played in North America when he was, I think, 20 years old. And so there's some people I know who saw him back then. They were familiar with him. They watched him as a younger player. And, at that point in time, they just said he wasn't ready. Like, there were some raw skills there, but he wasn't ready. So he goes back over, and you know what? I always say this about people, like, some people are ready when they're 19, 20 years old, and some people aren't, in a lot of different ways of life. Some people just mature later. And I can tell you that about a year ago was the first time somebody called me and said, I know you like to write notes and you like to be on top of things. Well, here's a name for you, because next year there's going to be a lot of people chasing after this player. And they told me about him, and it was definitely true. Like, the one thing, and it is a little bit of a lottery ticket, Adam. I think it's right the way you explain it, but there were a lot of people who wanted to buy this lottery ticket. And the one thing I heard, like I said to somebody, how on earth could Nashville get this guy? They don't even have a GM right now. And what I heard was, like, right from the beginning, the Predators and whoever was assigned to deal with him on the Predators, they were on him. Like, from beginning to end, they were persistent. They said, we like this player. We have room for this player. There will be a spot for this player. And I think there were other teams that made runs, but from beginning to end, I heard that Nashville was the most consistent. And I heard that that really resonated with the player. He was like, you know what, these for a little over a year, they've been a constant. They've been paying attention. They've been interested. I heard that really resonate with him, and their pitch to him, whatever they did, it was good. Like, what it says to me, Adam, is that he's going to have an atrocious camp next year not to be on the roster. Like, this is a guy who they think that is coming in to play. And it's interesting because I've had some people question whether he's a center or a winger or what he can play. But the fact is that there were enough teams here that were like, we give this guy a shot. We think there's a player here. But I heard I heard LA came on really strong over the last little while and made a big push. That was the team I heard. But from beginning to end, I was told nobody showed more interest and was more committed to the player than Nashville was.
Well, if he can play center, he will get every opportunity to play center for the Predators for sure. But I have this follow-up question. By the way, for those that don't know, Tkachuk was the third leading goal scorer in the KHL. He had 66 points in 65 games. So he really came on. He was one of the better players in that league. But Elliotte, what are the contractual things that you can offer a player out of the KHL? Was he open to anybody at any price? Did he have to sign an entry level like a college player? How did that work? Because did it come more to recruiting?
So basically, he's under the entry level system. So it all goes by age. Like Willie, he could sign with anybody. Once you're beyond 20, you can't be drafted. You're a free agent. But you have to sign. But until you're, I think it's 25. If I'm off on that one, don't get mad at me. He's 23, but I think it's 25. If you're under 25, you have to sign an entry level contract. Now, because he's 23, he only signs for 1 year. Like there's a certain age, like for most ages, your entry level deal is 3 years. Then you get to a certain age where you can only sign for 2 years. Then eventually you get to a certain age where you can only sign for 1 year. Tkachuk could only sign for 1 year, but it is under the entry-level system. So you can't.
So it wasn't a bidding war
like
per se. It was more of a recruiting, right?
It was more, yes. It was more of a recruiting war, although, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything improper. I want to say that right here, right now, Willie. It was more recruiting than anything else. Clearly the Predators told him he was going to play for them because they wouldn't have gotten him if they didn't. But whenever somebody signs a 1 year deal, there's usually talk about what a second deal could look like, although you're not allowed to commit to it.
Now,
the NHL has investigated teams in the past who are going too far on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, Elliotte, we were discussing Brady Tkachuk before you came on, and I understand that, he sees it as a distraction, and he said he's committed to the Senators. But we know players say one thing, and he said it didn't come out of his mouth, but that could also mean that somebody else said it for him. But we know players, and things can change at a drop of a dime. Where do you see this going, and what would it take under this scenario to get a Brady Tkachuk?
Well, I think the key thing here, Derek, is that it's not only what Brady says, it's what the organization says. Mm-hmm. And the Senators are extremely sensitive to any talk about Tkachuk getting traded. Like they really get their backs up over it. And their GM, Steve Stais, had a media conference on Monday, and before Brady spoke, and he said, and he gets mad about it. So what it says clearly to me is that Ottawa is not doing this unless they're being given some reason that they have to do it, unless they're absolutely backed into a corner and told you have to do it. So I think right now, until they're told that either he wants a trade or he's not going to sign an extension there, which he clearly is saying he hasn't done, this is not happening. If that changes, then we'll see. But right now, I just don't see it happening unless somebody gives me information to say that circumstances have changed. But Derek, It would be expensive, both in terms of the extension that would be required and the pieces that you would have to give up.
Now, I got a quick draft question for you, because you prompted it when you mentioned the draft and when they're going to have to, who picks where. We talked about it in the NFL. You can only go by, if you get outside the top 5 or top 6, you're not getting an elite player or an impact player. You may get a good player, but not an impact player. Where is it in this year's draft in hockey?
This is a good draft.
Where not the Titans, but the Predators, they're 10 now. Where is it? Where is that line of demarcation where they can get an immediate, impact player or a guy that's going to have to spend some years developing?
So, Derek, I'm going to ask, I know there's about 3 or 4 or 5 guys at the top. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm going to do, Derek. I am going to ask our draft guys, and I'm going to text it to Adam and Willie, because You don't trust me with your phone number, which I completely understand. I have Adam
You
and
can have it,
Willie's
Elliotte.
number. No, it's okay. I have Adam and Willie's number, but like I'll tell you this: at the beginning of the year, it was 3. Okay, it was 3. However, there's been some changes. So there's a player from Vancouver who played this year at Penn State, Gavin McKenna. He is a winger. There's a lot of people who really love him. There's a Swedish kid named Stenberg. There's who's a forward. I think he's a winger too. A lot of people really love him. At the beginning of the year, there was a defenseman from Canada. His last name is Verhoff. He's had some battles this year. So, and there have been some other kids that have jumped up. So what I'm going to do, Derek, is I'm going to ask our 2 draft guys. I'm going to say, okay, where's the elite cutoff in the draft and where's the drop in the draft? And I'll find out for you. But there's some good players. It's usually like 1 and then it drops, or 2 and then it drops. I think it might be a little larger this year, but I'll find out for you for sure.
Cool.
Elliotte Friedman's with us. Sportsnet, 32 Thoughts, the podcast, Hockey Night in Canada. Elliotte, Toronto has made some decisions here with their GM. Do you think there was any crossover of the guys that Toronto's bringing? I would guess Sundin was a unique situation there, but Shaika and those guys, do you think they were on the Predators' radar at all?
I think Shaika did not get an in-person with you, but I think he did do one of like the Zoom introductory interviews with you. Ryan Martin from the Rangers was a finalist in Toronto, and I think he had I know he had an in-person interview with you guys. So that was that one was tied in. Scott White is still kind of around Toronto. I think he's still technically active. He's a finalist. And I don't know if he ever had an in-person with you, but you guys definitely spoke to him a couple of times. Those are the ones that are kind of the carryovers, yes.
When the first round ends and there's a handful of other teams that are finished playing, does that open up new candidates? How does that work?
Well, I'll say this. First of all, if there's any team is so upset about what happened in the first round that they make a change, that's one question you always ask. It's possible that maybe there's someone you didn't ask to speak to beforehand and you want to speak to them now, but I'm not sure anyone would allow that during the playoffs. Those would be the 2 circumstances that I mean, look, you guys have already asked for permission to speak to one GM this year at least, and it got rejected. That was Eric Tulsky of Carolina. So, I mean, who knows? Clearly, you guys have not found the person you want, and you're waiting to speak to some people or going through the process of speaking to some more people.
All right, there's too many exciting series to ask you about all of them, but with the backyard of Minnesota and Dallas in the Predators division, huge game tonight. It's been an unbelievable, intense series. What are you seeing for the rest of that one? Do you think Minnesota can close it out tonight?
I do. I think Dallas is having a nightmare of a time scoring. They haven't scored at 5-on-5 in 210 minutes. You cannot win playoff series like that. You just can't. But the thing is it's been 10 years since Minnesota closed out a series, right? You got to prove you can do it. There's that old cliche, the 4th game is the hardest to win. We'll see. But Dallas can't score at even strength. You're not going to win like that. And also, I don't think their 3rd and 4th lines have scored all playoffs in this series. Like, all their goals have come from their top guys, right? That's another way you're not going to win. Like, Montreal's up 3-2 in their series, and their top line doesn't have a goal at even strength. Like, it's not preferable, but you can win that way if other people are scoring. If your top guys are scoring and nobody else is, and they've only got like 3 or 4 goals, you're not going to win. Somebody else has to be a hero for them. Somebody who is not one of their star players. As a matter of fact, a guy you guys know well, Michael Bunting, he hasn't played for Dallas yet, and I think he's going to play tonight. Like, that's the kind of guy I'd be going to. is, you can be a little bit undisciplined. He's got to be smart, but he brings energy and he competes and he cares. And I just think they need that tonight because they're just not getting it from enough people.
Elliotte, before we let you go, I want to ask you about the other game going on tonight. Edmonton at Anaheim. Edmonton avoided elimination the other night. Anaheim trying to eliminate Edmonton at home tonight. I have to imagine that this would be the nightmare scenario for the Oilers and their fans if after Connor McDavid signed short-term, the Oilers are eliminated in the first round by the Anaheim Ducks. What do you think happens if the Oilers do not come out of this series?
Well, I don't think McDavid's going to ask for a trade.
Right, of course.
I don't think that's happening. But they are really beaten up. So are the Ducks a bit, but they are really beaten up. But I do think this has been a challenging year for a lot of different reasons. And I could see them asking a lot of questions internally about, okay, how did we make some of the decisions we make this year? Did we like our process? Did we like that? And that I definitely think, it's been tough. They traded for Ingram. He's been their starting goalie. He's played very well for them, but they traded for Jari, and he played very well for them in game number 4, but they took him right back out again. And so I could see that being as much the conversation as anything else. How do we feel about all of this and some of the choices we made? And then how do we either adjust that process or make ourselves better in the off season? I don't think McDavid, if you're asking me if I think McDavid's going to ask out,
no,
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, of course not. But I do wonder if it makes him go, I'm glad I signed that short-term contract if the Oilers can't get out of the first round. Elliotte Friedman of Sportsnet has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He is presented each week by Old National Bank and Green Ventures Landscaping. Elliotte, as always, a pleasure. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll talk to you next week.
Bill Haslam and Derek Mason, 2 guys who will never give me their phone.
Well, Elliotte, if you text, Derek wants to know your thoughts on Diego Pavia potentially becoming a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Absolutely. So I'm going to pass my number along to you through Adam or Willie, and then you can give me that.
You guys can talk CFL.
Exactly.
I will find out from our CFL guys what the likelihood is.
Perfect.
Thank you. Boy, if Diego gets to Winnipeg,
Elliotte.
he's going to take over the town. He's going to add some heat to that town for sure.
I can't even, having been to Winnipeg, I can't imagine Diego Pavia in Winnipeg. It's the same thing as Mike Vrabel listening to Papa Roach. I can't see Diego Pavia in Winnipeg. I don't think it's his sort of town, but maybe he'll be a member of the Blue Bombers soon enough. 615-737-1025. We will react to what Elliotte had to say. We wrap up the show next ahead of Vanderbilt baseball. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, listen, I've lived in the Middle Tennessee area for almost 20 years, and I know you have as well, even longer, some a little bit shorter. So I know you've seen, especially over the last 10 years, you've seen how wild our weather can be. From winter storms, tornadoes, to flooding, we've seen it all. Like many of you, the winter storm earlier this year caught me off guard and unprepared. I lost my power for 7 days. That was 7 days out of my house, 7 days in a hotel, 7 days paying for a hotel, 7 days worrying about whether my pipes were going to burst or not. That's when I realized being prepared isn't an option. I will be ready the next time a weather emergency hits, as I know you want to be. So I started looking into whole home generators and found Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. They've been in business for over 30 years, specialized in generators for more than half of those, which is all great, people, because you want them to specialize in something, especially something like a generator. But the reason I reached out to them wasn't because of that, but because of their reviews and confidence other homeowners shared about their experience with Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. When Tri-State came to the house, they did a free on-site assessment, made sure my generator fit my home for me and my family. The thing I appreciated the most is they didn't try to oversell me. They didn't try to sell me a generator that was enough for 2 houses. I told them what I needed, and they made it happen. So just straight to answers, turnkey. They handle everything in-house from installation to long-term service. If something ever goes wrong, I'm not calling around. I'm making one call, and that is to Tri-State Water, Power, and Air, because they've got it all covered. That's the kind of relationship I want, and I know that's the kind of relationship you are looking for as well. So look, the weather isn't slowing down. Be ready. Call Tri-State Water, Power, and Air today and protect your home and your family. Find them at tristatewhywait.com. That's tristatewhywait.com.
D. Mace, Van Gendonic. Who knows if Diego Pavia will be singing this song at some point. He could be a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers of the CFL. We'll find out. Tomorrow we will be live at First Horizon Park in Germantown for the Nashville Sounds game against the team of my youth, the Norfolk Tides. Tides and Sounds tomorrow at First Horizon Park. An update on a story we discussed at the beginning of the show. Carnell Tate told Sports Illustrated he would give up the bank for number 17 if someone on his new team has number 17. Jim Dike has number 17. Jim Wyatt has revealed that Carnell Tate, for now, will wear number 14. Derek, you don't like the idea of a receiver wearing 14.
I just don't like the 4. I think Stephon Diggs wore 14, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought he was 13.
Was he 13? I mean, when he was in Minnesota. That's what I'm thinking. He could have been 13 in Minnesota, but I'm trying to figure out.
He was 14 in Minnesota.
Yeah, so,
you're right.
Okay. Now that I'm looking, because I see a picture.
Neil O'Donnell, 14.
Neil O'Donnell, 14, but that's a quarterback. But I see the picture they superimposed and put his. It looks all right. 14. I would have taken 15, but I know Malik Falk has 15. But I would have taken 15 on 4. But 14 looks good.
I admire
Make
the fact
14 the number again. Okay, make 14.
I'm not ruling out that he has 17 by the start of the season.
I'm ruling it out.
I think he's going to make an offer to Jim Dike that Dike cannot refuse.
Do we think that this is a logistics question? It's more important than normal because you hope people want to buy his jersey,
exactly.
Right? So you want to get the jersey out there. So if he were to switch, that would be a little problematic.
They're not
or it'd
switching.
become a collector's item, I guess.
Yeah,
like Shea Weber wore like 42 or something his first before he switched to number 6. Like there's certain guys. That's a great trivia question. What was your first number before you got your number?
And I think with these new jerseys, they probably started printing up numbers. And with DK, they didn't put 17. That's another reason they can't do it. They plaster 17 everywhere. You're talking about an all-pro. They splattered like he was in the New Jersey.
Yes,
and everything. So they can't change it.
It was Cam Ward, Jeffrey Simmons,
Yeah.
Jim Dike.
So you can't change it.
I admire your resolve, Derek Mason.
Put a milli on the table.
Because I can
change
debot.
it.
One texter earlier, by the way, said, if I'm Jim Dike, I'm asking for Carnell Tate's signing bonus, which is $33.6 million.
That may be a little bit
You
too
said
much.
you would give up the bank, Carnell.
Exactly.
Put your money where your mouth is. Let's go to Ryan in Nashville on our phone line. Ryan, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Brady Tkachuk thing is going to be hard, especially with that no movement clause, because he's going to put Florida. He's probably going to put all 3 teams, Jersey, Flyers, Rangers on that list because that's where his family is. But Willie, you said Fitzgerald did a good job for the Devils. I beg to differ on that. He had 7 years, 2 playoff appearances in 7 years, only once out of the first round. And on top of that, and it was reported, Vancouver called New Jersey beginning of the season and said, hey, if things go south, we're trading Quinn Hughes. He got called before the season even started, and he messed around and drug his feet. And then when the opportunity came, he buffled the trade, which threw the Devils into a complete spin out because the locker room went into chaos afterwards. Fitzgerald cannot handle a trade. He overpaid for Timo Meier. He overpaid players and locked them into no trade clause, no movement clauses. He's just going to be another problem and going to create the problem on this team and cap space.
Thank you for the call, Ryan.
I don't know if I said he did a great job at New Jersey. I said the question of whether you hire him should be evaluating his job at New Jersey and not he was the captain of the Predators. To me, the fact that he was a captain for the Predators should be a plus in his corner because he has been removed for such a long time. It should much more be evaluating his skills as a GM.
Matthew from Jolton says, what's wrong with wide receivers using numbers in the 80s? 99% of receivers that use numbers in the 80s are dogs. Derek Mason.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Number 85. I don't know why I short circuited there and said number 3 times in a row.
You know, receivers should be 80, but I get it. You know, things have changed and you're running out of numbers. So, and rosters are getting bigger. So you have to go, and teams are retiring numbers. I think there should be only really 1 or 2 jerseys retired per organization that nobody ever wears again. But then retiring one's number is, I think you should be able to do that. But just to take the number out of circulation, period, I think you have to be Like you have to be like that dude of the era to me when it comes to that. So yeah, the rosters are getting bigger. So, guys are going away from, the 80s.
I'm putting it
now.
down right now before we get out of here. I'm putting it down right now. At some point this season, Carnell Tate will be wearing number 17.
Okay.
No.
I'm putting it down.
You don't think so?
No.
I think Carnell Tate at some point this season
Unless
will
they
wear
cut
number
DK.
17.
I like this. I think this needs to be
Which they not going to do.
They're not cutting DK,
No.
that's for sure. But I'm putting it down. I think Carnell Tate is going to come up with
DK.
something that Jim DK will not be able to resist.
Okay, so
All
if you
money
bought a
ain't-
Chim DK 17 jersey, will the Titans provide a service to switch the nameplate?
I have to
Exactly.
imagine they will.
No, they wouldn't.
You don't think so?
No, they wouldn't.
You
because
don't think that they would say, hey,
Bring,
DK
I think it'd be a great
jersey-
promotion.
Yes.
Bring your DK jersey, and we'll slap Tate on the back of it.
Yeah.
Nah, it's too
Or
much.
we'll change the 7 to a 4 for you if he goes to
Oh,
a little
wow.
tougher.
Yeah, that's real.
There's always the odd fan though that has the little tape job that does do that. If the
Yes.
guy, if a person switches teams or the name switched,
Man,
pretty
make
funny.
14 great, man. That's what. Just make 14 the number everybody want to wear in the building. That's what. Because DK has made 17 a number people want to wear. Why? Because he was damn good last year at his job.
I just want to put it out there for all of you listening, especially those of you who own businesses. I can be bought. Unlike Derek Mason, unlike Jim DK, apparently. I can be bought. And that'll do it for us today. On that note, that'll do it for us today. Vanderbilt baseball coming up next against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. First pitch is at 6 p.m. Speaking of baseball, we will be live at the ballpark tomorrow, First Horizon Park in Germantown for the Nashville Sounds. Always love going out to the ballpark. A big thank you to Elliotte Friedman for joining us. Always an insightful and informative listen. If you missed it, you can find it wherever you listen to your podcast. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Thursday. I love you. The team loves you. Hear that music. Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow at 3 p.m. at First Horizon. Yes, we will be at the baseball stadium tomorrow. Weather will be great. So you be listening and we be talking. Peace.